She ran for her dear life while pregnant after receiving a hot slap from her billionaire CEO ex. What happened next shocked everyone. Let me tell you about the slap heard around Wall Street. Not metaphorically, though it would destroy stock prices and end careers. I mean an actual, physical slap that echoed through the 47th floor of Meridian Tower and changed everything for everyone who heard it. Picture this scene. A conference room full of board members in suits that cost more than most people's cars. Quarterly reports spread across a table that could seat 20, but only held 12, because odd numbers made Cassius Meridian nervous. And standing at the head of that table, 7 months pregnant with twins, Zelda Russo had just told these titans of industry that she was keeping the babies their CEO didn't want. The silence that followed her announcement was the kind that makes your ears ring. You know that moment in movies where everything goes quiet before the explosion? That's what this was. The deep breath before the scream. Then Cassius stood up, walked around that expensive table with the same deliberate stride he used when he was about to close $1 billion deal. Except this time, instead of extending his hand for a handshake, he raised it and slapped Zelda across the face hard enough to split her lip. The sound was wrong. All wrong. Like a gunshot in a library, like glass breaking in church. It didn't belong in that sterile corporate environment where violence was supposed to be limited to hostile takeovers and metaphorical backstabbing. Zelda didn't fall. I need you to understand that. 7 months pregnant with twins, having just been hit by a man who spent 4 hours a day with a personal trainer, and she didn't fall. She stood there, hand pressed to her burning cheek, blood in her mouth, and looked at him with something between pity and disgust. Now you might think she said something dramatic. Cursed him out, threatened him, swore revenge. But she didn't say anything. She just turned and walked out, leaving 12 board members frozen like someone had hit pause on their lives, and Cassius standing there with his hand still raised like he couldn't believe what it had just done. Have you ever made a decision that changed everything? Not gradually, but instantly? The kind where your life splits into before and after, and there's no bridge between the two? That's what Zelda did in that elevator, descending from the 47th floor. She decided to disappear. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a museum curator ended up pregnant by a billionaire who'd rather burn money than change diapers. It's a story that starts 18 months before the slap, at one of those charity galas where rich people bid on art they don't understand to prove they have money they don't need. Zelda was explaining a particularly confusing installation to potential donors. You know the type of art I mean. The kind that's either genius or garbage depending on how much wine you've had. She was in the middle of discussing fragmented identity and mirror reflections when Cassius inserted himself into her presentation with the confidence of someone who'd never met a conversation he couldn't dominate. The mirrors are all wrong, he announced to her group of carefully interested socialites. The artist wants us to think we're fragmented, but look closer. The reflections line up. We're not broken. We're just viewing ourselves from angles we don't usually see. Zelda turned to look at this man who'd just hijacked her talk. 38 years old, silver at the temples in that way that made him look distinguished rather than old, wearing a watch that cost more than her PhD had. That's an interesting interpretation, Mr. Meridian. Cassius Meridian. Of course she knew who he was. Everyone in New York knew Cassius Meridian. He'd built his fortune on destroying companies and selling their pieces, what they called a corporate raider in polite company, and a vulture when he wasn't in the room. Well, Mr. Meridian, she said, turning back to her audience, you're looking at it backwards. Literally. The installation is meant to be viewed from the other side. The socialites tittered. Someone actually applauded. And Cassius Meridian, who hadn't been corrected in public since he'd become worth more than small nations, smiled like she'd just given him a gift. Show me, he said. And God help her, she did. Let me tell you something about powerful men. They don't fall in love the way normal people do. They acquire. They pursue with the same intensity they use to hostile takeover companies, and they don't stop until they own what they want. That's what Cassius did with Zelda. He pursued her like she was a company he wanted to strip for parts, except somewhere along the way, he forgot he was supposed to destroy her after the acquisition. Their first date wasn't really a date. He showed up at the museum during her lunch break with takeout from a restaurant that didn't do takeout. How did you get them to deliver? She asked, looking at the Michelin-starred logo on bags that had never seen a delivery driver. I bought the restaurant. For lunch. For you. That's insane. That's romantic. That's the same thing at your tax bracket. See, that's what he liked about her. She wasn't impressed by his money. Or rather, she was impressed but not grateful, which was a distinction most people in his orbit couldn't make. She'd eat his expensive food and mock him for buying it. She'd ride in his private jet and point out the carbon footprint. She'd wear the jewelry he bought her to grocery shop at Trader Joe's. "You're trying to domesticate me," he accused her once, finding her in his penthouse kitchen at 2 a.m., making grilled cheese with Wonder Bread and American singles. "You're trying to gentrify me," she countered, handing him a sandwich. "We're even." They weren't even. They were never even. Because he had all the power and she had all the vulnerability, and neither of them wanted to admit it until it was too late. The relationship lasted a year before the pregnancy. A year of him flying her to Paris for dinner and her making him watch reality TV in her Queens apartment. A year of him trying to improve her and her trying to humanize him. They were like two different species attempting to create a hybrid that could survive in both their worlds. "Move in with me," he said at month 6. "Absolutely not." "Why?" "Because the minute I move into your penthouse, I become your kept woman instead of your girlfriend." "That's ridiculous." "That's accurate. I need my own space, my own life, my own identity beyond Cassius Meridian's whatever I am to you. You're my girlfriend." "Am I?" "Because you've never actually said that word before." "Fine. You're my girlfriend. Now move in with me." "No." She kept her apartment, her job, her independence. It drove him crazy in the way that things he couldn't control always did. But it also kept him interested, which was probably the only reason they lasted as long as they did. Let me tell you when she should have known it would end badly. It was month 8, and they were at another gala, this one for endangered elephants or orphaned whales or something equally tragic and expensive. A society photographer asked to take their picture, and just before the flash, someone asked Cassius if he and Zelda were getting serious. "Serious is for people who think the future is guaranteed," he said, smile never wavering. "We're just enjoying the present." The photo, when it was published in the society pages, showed Zelda looking at him with an expression that could only be described as wounded. But by then it was too late. She was already in love with him, or at least in love with the version of him that existed between 2 and 6 a.m., when his defenses were down and he'd tell her about his father who'd had 6 children with 4 women and loved none of them. "I won't be him," Cassius would say in the darkness. "You won't be," she'd agree, not realizing he meant it differently than she heard it. She thought he meant he'd be better. He meant he wouldn't be a father at all. The pregnancy conversation happened exactly once before she got pregnant. They were a little drunk on wine that cost more than minimum wage workers make in a month, and she asked him what he thought about kids. The temperature in the room dropped about 20 degrees. "I don't think about kids," he said. "Ever. Never. But what if?" "There is no what if. I don't want children. I will never want children." "I thought you understood that." "I understood you were scared of being like your father." "I'm not scared of being like him. I'm certain I would be. The only way to win that game is not to play." She should have left then. Should have recognized the sound of a door slamming shut on possibilities. But she was 29 and convinced that love could change people, which is the kind of thing you believe at 29 before life teaches you that people only change when they want to, and sometimes not even then. When she found out she was pregnant, she sat on her bathroom floor in Queens for 3 hours, staring at 5 positive tests like they might suddenly change their minds. She knew exactly how Cassius would react. Knew he'd want her to terminate. Knew he'd probably leave if she didn't. What she didn't know was that there were 2 heartbeats instead of 1. The free clinic ultrasound revealed that particular plot twist. "Twins," the technician said cheerfully, like she was announcing a prize Zelda had won. "Twins," Zelda repeated, the word feeling strange in her mouth. "Identical or fraternal, we won't know for a few weeks. But definitely 2. See, 2 sacs, 2 heartbeats. 2 problems," Zelda thought, but didn't say. 2 reasons for Cassius to run even faster. She waited a week to tell him. Not because she was scared, though she was, but because she needed to know her own mind first. Did she want these babies? Could she raise them alone? Would she? The answer was yes to all 3, which made telling him feel less like asking permission and more like serving papers. She did it at his penthouse after dinner he'd barely touched, because some deal in Tokyo was falling apart. He was distracted, checking his phone every 30 seconds, which somehow made it easier. "I'm pregnant." He froze mid-reach for his phone. What? Pregnant? With child? With children, actually. Twins. That's not. We were careful. Careful isn't guaranteed. You of all people should know that. How many of your father's children were planned? Don't. His voice was sharp. This isn't about him, isn't it? Everything about your fear of children is about him. How far along? 7 weeks. So there's time. Time for what? To fix this. There's nothing to fix. I'm having them. The silence that followed was the kind that happens before natural disasters. That eerie stillness before the tornado touches down. You're having them. He repeated, like the words were in a foreign language. I am. Without my consent. I don't need your consent to have children that are already growing inside me. You need my consent to have my children. Actually, legally, I don't. Ethically, I'm telling you as a courtesy. But my decision is made. He stood up, walked to his wall of windows that looked out over Manhattan like he owned it, which in some ways he did. When he turned back, his face was different. The man who sometimes made her grilled cheese at 3 a.m. was gone, replaced by the corporate raider who destroyed 100 companies. How much? Excuse me. How much to make this go away? 5 million. 10. You're trying to buy my abortion? I'm trying to solve a problem. These aren't problems. They're babies. You're babies. They're not babies yet. They're possibilities I don't want realized. Then you should have thought about that before. Before what? Before I trusted you to handle your birth control. Oh, that's nice. Blame me for the failure of a system that's only 99% effective. 99% should have been enough. Well, it wasn't. And now we're here. No, you're here. I'm done. What does that mean? It means if you have these children, you have them alone. No support, no involvement, no acknowledgement. You'll be a single mother of twins with no help from me. I'd rather be a single mother than raise children with someone who sees them as problems to be solved. Fine. Then we're done. We're done. But they weren't done. Not even close. Because Cassius Meridian wasn't the kind of man who let problems exist without trying to solve them. Over the next 5 months, he tried everything to change her mind. First came the money. Escalating offers that started at 5 million and reached 15 million by month 4. She rejected them all, which seemed to genuinely confuse him. Everyone has a price, he said during one of his negotiation attempts. Mine isn't monetary. Then what is it? I want you to want them. That's not going to happen. Then neither is me taking your money. Next came the lawyers. Threats of custody battles, claims that she was unfit, investigations into her background that turned up nothing because she'd lived a boringly ethical life. You're wasting money on private investigators, she told him. The worst thing I've ever done is steal cable in college. Everyone has secrets. Not everyone is you, Cassius. Then came the romance offensive. Flowers every day. Jewelry she sent back. Promises to be involved eventually when his company was stable. Your company has been stable for a decade, she pointed out. Markets change. You're scared. I'm practical. You're terrified of becoming your father, so you're becoming something worse. At least he acknowledged his children, even if he didn't love them. That hit a nerve. She could see it in the way his jaw tightened, the way his hands clenched. But she didn't know how much of a nerve until the day of the slap. It was month 7 of her pregnancy, and she'd had enough. Enough of his attempts to control the situation, enough of his lawyers and offers and manipulations. So she'd done something nuclear. She'd walked into his board meeting and announced her pregnancy. Gentlemen, she'd said, standing at the head of that expensive table in a dress that showed exactly how pregnant she was. I thought you should know that your CEO is about to become a father of twins, and he's trying to pay me to disappear, which might affect your stock prices when it becomes public. The board had erupted. Questions flying, voices rising, calculations of liability and exposure happening in real time. And Cassius had stood up, walked over to her with that deliberate stride, and slapped her. The sound echoed. Her hand went to her cheek. Blood filled her mouth where her teeth cut her lip. And in that moment, looking at his face that showed as much shock as everyone else's, she made her decision. She ran. Not dramatically. She couldn't really run at 7 months pregnant with twins. But she moved with purpose, out of that conference room, past his frozen assistant, into the elevator that took forever to arrive. She heard him calling her name, heard his palm hit the closing elevator doors, and then she was descending, 47 floors of descent that felt like leaving Earth's atmosphere. She didn't go to the police. Didn't go to a hospital. Went straight to her apartment in Queens, packed everything that mattered into 2 suitcases, withdrew the $3,800 she had in savings, and bought a bus ticket to the last place anyone would look for her. Columbus, Ohio. Why Columbus? Because she'd once read an article about it being the most average city in America, the place companies test-marketed products because it was so perfectly middle American. If you wanted to disappear, why not disappear into aggressive normalcy? The bus ride took 12 hours. 12 hours of her face throbbing, her babies kicking, her mind racing through what she'd just done. She'd walked away from Cassius Meridian, from New York, from any chance of her children knowing their father, from $15 million that could have made their lives easier. But she'd also walked away from a man who could hit a pregnant woman, who could look at his own children growing inside her and see only problems, who was so broken by his own father that he'd rather break others than risk feeling anything. Columbus was exactly as advertised. Aggressively normal. She found a boarding house that rented by the week, run by a woman named Dottie who didn't ask questions as long as you paid in cash and didn't cause trouble. Got a job at a coffee shop called Common Grounds where the manager, Jerome, hired her on the spot because she could work the register and didn't seem like she was on drugs. When are you due? He asked, looking at her belly. 6 weeks. You got someone to watch them when they come? I'll figure it out. That's what they all say? Then they don't show up for shifts. I'll show up. And she did. Every day for 6 weeks, she showed up. Made coffee for people who didn't look at her twice. Lived in her boarding house room that smelled like the Indian restaurant downstairs. Grew bigger and more uncomfortable and completely invisible. The twins came 2 weeks early, because of course they did. She was working the morning shift when her water broke, creating a puddle by the espresso machine that Jerome mopped up while calling her a cab. You got someone to call? The cab driver asked, looking at her in the rearview mirror as she breathed through a contraction. No. Nobody. 23 hours of labor. Emergency C-section when baby B went into distress. 2 boys, 5 pounds each, identical down to the birthmarks on their left shoulders. She named them Lysander and Phoenix while still high on painkillers, names she'd chosen months ago for their meaning. Lysander for the Spartan general who'd ended wars. Phoenix for resurrection, for rising from ashes. The hospital social worker tried to help. Found her resources for single mothers, food stamps applications, numbers for churches that might assist. But Zelda didn't want to be found, so she gave a fake name, Sarah Mills, and paid the hospital bill in installments of cash. For 3 months, she lived in that boarding house with infant twins. It should have been hell. In many ways it was. 2 babies who never slept at the same time. Cloth diapers because disposables were too expensive. Formula that cost more than her rent. No help. No family. No partner to take a night shift. But it was also freedom. No one trying to buy her children. No one hitting her for keeping them. No one making her feel like her choice to have them was a betrayal of some corporate empire. Just her and 2 tiny boys who didn't care that their father was worth billions or that their mother was hiding in Ohio. Dottie from the boarding house helped sometimes. Would hold one twin while Zelda fed the other. The women at the coffee shop would slip her extra food, claiming it would go bad anyway. Jerome let her bring the twins to work sometimes, setting up a playpen in the back office where she could check on them between customers. Those are good-looking boys, he said one day, watching her feed them during her break. They look like their father. He around? No. His loss. Yes, she agreed. It is. She might have stayed hidden forever if she hadn't seen the news. It was a slow afternoon at the coffee shop, CNN playing on the TV nobody really watched, when Cassius's face appeared above a breaking news banner. Billionaire CEO Cassius Meridian arrested for insider trading. Federal investigation reveals years of illegal trades, market manipulation. She stood there, coffee pot in hand, watching her ex whatever he was get perp walked out of his building. He looked terrible. Thin, haggard, his premature silver now looking more like premature aging. The commentators were having a field day. The corporate raider finally getting raided. The man who destroyed companies finally being destroyed himself. You know that guy? Jerome asked, noticing her staring. Used to. He the father? She didn't answer, but Jerome wasn't stupid. You going back? No. But that night, in her boarding house room with the twins finally asleep, she did something she'd sworn she wouldn't. She researched what was happening, and what she found changed everything. The insider trading charges were false. She could see it in the patterns, the timing, the supposed trades that happened when she knew Cassius had been with her or overseas. His CFO, a man named Garrett Vance she'd met at a few events, was behind it. She could see his fingerprints all over the frame-up, using Cassius's access codes, making trades from Cassius's computer when Cassius was documented as being elsewhere. She had proof, too. Recordings on her phone from when she'd started documenting everything after getting pregnant, including one where Garrett had said, while drunk at an office party, that he could destroy Cassius whenever he wanted, that he had all his passwords, that it would be easy to make it look like Cassius was trading on inside information. Why do you hate him so much? Zelda had asked on the recording. Because he has everything and acts like he earned it. Because he was born on third base and thinks he hit a triple. Because men like him always win unless someone makes them lose. The slap video had leaked the day after the arrest. Someone in that boardroom had sold it to the highest bidder, and now it was everywhere. The pregnant girlfriend. The violent CEO. The perfect scandal to ensure Cassius would be convicted in the court of public opinion even if he was innocent of the insider trading. Zelda sat there, listening to her own recorded evidence, watching the news destroy the man who'd hit her, and made a decision that nobody would understand. She was going to save him, not because she forgave him, not because she loved him, but because her sons deserved to know their father was many things, cold, cruel, violent when cornered, but not a criminal. At least, not that kind of criminal. She called a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, but Miranda Thorne, who'd made her reputation destroying powerful men who'd done terrible things. The consultation alone would cost more than Zelda had, but she called anyway. "My name is Zelda Russo," she said when Miranda's assistant answered. "I'm the woman Cassius Meridian slapped while I was pregnant. I have evidence that he's innocent of the insider trading charges, and I want to help him." The assistant paused. "Please hold." Miranda herself picked up 30 seconds later. "This is either the most interesting call I've gotten all year, or the most disturbing. Possibly both." "Both. Definitely both. You want to help the man who hit you while you were pregnant. On camera. He's being framed for the insider trading. I can prove it. So, let him burn for something. Cosmic justice. My sons deserve better than cosmic justice. They deserve truth. Your sons, twins, 3 months old. They're going to grow up knowing their father hit me. That's documented, undeniable. But I don't want them growing up thinking he was also a criminal he wasn't. That's either very evolved or very stupid. Can it be both? Where are you? Columbus. Ohio. Yes. Jesus. Okay. Can you get to Chicago? If I have to. You have to. Bring everything. The recordings, any documents, the babies if you need to. We're going to do something nobody expects. Which is, we're going to tell the truth. All of it. And see who's still standing when we're done. The trip to Chicago took everything Zelda had saved. Bus tickets, a cheap motel, formula and diapers for the twins. She arrived at Miranda's office looking exactly like what she was, a woman who'd been on a Greyhound with infant twins for 8 hours. Miranda looked like something out of a magazine. Red suit that probably cost more than the bus. Hair that defied humidity. The kind of presence that made courtrooms shut up and pay attention. "You look like hell," Miranda said. "Thanks." Your receptionist said the same thing. These the twins. Lysander and Phoenix were in their carriers, miraculously asleep despite the chaos of travel. They're beautiful. They look like him. Unfortunately. Fortunately for our purposes. Hard to deny children who are your face in miniature. Now, show me what you have. Zelda pulled out her phone, played the recordings. Garrett discussing his ability to frame Cassius. Other board members plotting to use the pregnancy scandal to take over the company. Cassius himself, in earlier recordings, showing he was exactly where he said he was when the insider trades happened. "This is gold," Miranda said. "This is better than gold. This is platinum coated in diamonds. Why haven't you released it?" "Because I wanted to do it right. And because..." Zelda paused. "Because I wanted something in return. Money. No. I want him to meet them. The twins. I want him to look at what he tried to buy his way out of and decide if he wants to be their father or not. You want to guilt him into parenthood? I want to give him a choice. A real choice, not one made in anger or fear. He can walk away forever, sign away his rights, never see them again. Or he can be their father. Really be their father, not just send checks. That's playing with fire. I've already been burned. What's a little more heat? Miranda studied her for a long moment. You're not stupid. You're not even naive. You're something else. Strategic, maybe. I'm a mother. We're all strategic when it comes to our children. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to leak the recordings, but carefully. Build a narrative. Pregnant woman flees after assault, but still has conscience enough to prevent a miscarriage of justice. The media will eat it up. I don't want to be a story. Too late. You became a story the minute that slap went viral. The question is whether you're the victim or the hero of that story. Can't I be both? Now you're learning. The first leak happened 2 days later. Just Garrett's voice discussing his ability to destroy Cassius. Nothing about the pregnancy or the slap. The financial press picked it up immediately. Suddenly, the insider trading case had cracks. The second leak was more targeted. The evidence that Cassius had been in Tokyo when the trades were made, with timestamps and witness confirmation. The FBI started looking at Garrett instead of Cassius. The third leak was the bomb. A full recording of a board meeting where several members discussed using the pregnancy scandal to take over the company, with Garrett saying, "Let him rot for hitting her." While everyone's focused on that, nobody will notice I've been using his passwords. Garrett was arrested on his yacht, trying to flee to a non-extradition country. The insider trading charges against Cassius were dropped, but the assault charge remained, and public opinion had already convicted him, which is when Zelda did the thing that shocked everyone. She refused to cooperate with prosecution. "He hit you on camera," the prosecutor said, having flown to Chicago to meet with her. In a private boardroom. The video was obtained illegally and leaked for profit. It won't hold up in court. We don't need your cooperation. The video speaks for itself. The video without context is just a moment. The context is that I just announced his children to his board without his consent, potentially costing shareholders millions. While I don't condone violence, I also don't think prison is the answer. Then what is the answer? Accountability without incarceration. He faces what he did, makes amends, and we move forward. You're protecting your abuser. I'm protecting my children's father from a system that won't rehabilitate him, just warehouse him. What good does that do my sons? The prosecutor left frustrated. The media had opinions. Op-eds about cycle of violence, Stockholm Syndrome, women protecting their abusers. But Zelda had anticipated this. She gave exactly one interview, to a carefully chosen journalist. "He hit me," she said simply to the camera. "That's inexcusable. But he's also the father of my children, and I want them to have the chance to know him. Not the man who hit me, but the man he could become if given the opportunity to change." You think people can change? I think people can choose to change. Whether he will or not, I don't know. But I want my sons to know I gave their father that chance. The interview went viral. Opinion was split. Some called her naive, others evolved. But everyone was talking about it, which meant everyone was talking about Cassius's innocence in the insider trading case, which meant his lawyers could work. A week later, she got the call she'd been expecting. "He wants to meet with you," Miranda said. "Cassius, he wants to see you and the twins." No. He sees me first. Alone. Then, if I decide he's genuine, he meets them. You're testing him. I'm protecting them. They're 3 months old. They don't need to meet a father who's going to disappear. The meeting was scheduled for neutral ground, Miranda's conference room, lawyers present, but in the background. Zelda arrived first, deliberately. She wanted him to walk into her space, not the other way around. When he entered, she almost didn't recognize him. He'd lost weight, at least 20 pounds. His suits hung loose. His face was gaunt. He looked like a man who'd been fed into his own corporate shredder. "You saved me," he said without preamble. "Why? I didn't save you. I prevented an injustice. There's a difference. After what I did, what you did was inexcusable, but it wasn't insider trading. You should face consequences for what you actually did, not for what you didn't do. The slap, among other things. The attempted bribery. The threats. The fundamental disrespect of my autonomy. I'm sorry. Sorry is a word. What are you going to do about it? What do you want me to do? I want you to decide. Do you want to be a father or not?" "I don't know how to be a father. Nobody knows how until they do it. My father is dead. Has been for years. You can't keep blaming a ghost for your choices." "I'm not blaming him. I'm saying I have no model for how to do this right. Then create one. Or walk away. But decide. Because I won't let you drift in and out of their lives like some financial quarter that's sometimes profitable and sometimes not. He was quiet for a moment, looking at her with those whiskey-colored eyes that she'd once found so intoxicating. Can I see them? Not yet. First, you agree to my terms. Which are therapy. Real therapy, not corporate coaching. Deal with your father issues, your control issues, your violence issues. Agreed. Financial support, but not control. You don't get to buy decision-making power. Agreed. And supervised visitation for the first 6 months. You see them with me present until I'm sure you won't hurt them. Hurt them? I would never. You hit their mother while she was pregnant with them. You've already hurt them. The question is whether you'll do it again. I won't. Prove it. How? By showing up. Consistently. Even when it's inconvenient. Even when you have meetings in Tokyo or deals falling apart. You show up for them. For how long? Forever. That's what parenting is. Forever. That's a long time. If that scares you, walk away now. He looked at her. This woman he'd hit, who'd saved him from false charges, who was offering him a chance he didn't deserve. I want to try. Trying isn't enough. Then I'll do more than try. I'll succeed. This isn't a business deal you can negotiate or a company you can acquire. These are human beings who need consistency, love, presence. I understand. Do you? Because 3 months ago, you tried to pay me $15 million to make them disappear. That was before. Before what? Before I lost everything. Before I realized that without my company, my money, my power, I was nothing. Before I understood that maybe being nothing was the only way to become something. That's very poetic. But poetry doesn't change diapers at 3 a.m. No, but it's a start. She studied him, this broken version of the man who'd broken her. Could people change? Really change? Or did they just learn to hide their worst impulses better? Lysander and Phoenix, she said finally. Those are their names. Strong names. They'll need to be strong with us as parents. Do you have pictures? She pulled out her phone, showed him the lock screen. 2 identical boys, 3 months old, with his eyes and her nose. They're perfect, he whispered. They're exhausting and expensive and occasionally emit substances that defy physics. When can I meet them? When you've been in therapy for a month. When you've read at least 3 parenting books. When you can prove you've turned down at least 1 important meeting for them. That's a lot of requirements. That's the bare minimum. He nodded, accepting the terms like he was signing a contract, which in a way he was. A contract for redemption, for fatherhood, for a chance to be better than his father and better than himself. One more thing, Zelda said as he stood to leave. What? If you ever hit me again, or them, or anyone in anger, I will destroy you in ways that will make federal prison look like a spa vacation. I have recordings of everything, backed up in multiple locations. I have lawyers who owe me favors. I have media contacts who would love the exclusive. Do you understand? I understand. Good. Then I'll see you in a month. The month that followed was the longest of Cassius Meridian's life. Not because of the therapy, though sitting in Dr. Sarah Brennan's office twice a week, dissecting his childhood like a corpse on an autopsy table, was its own kind of torture. Not because of the parenting books, though what to expect the first year made running a billion-dollar company look like finger painting. But because every day that passed was another day his sons didn't know he existed. He'd rented an apartment in Columbus. Nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom in a building that didn't have a doorman or a gym or any of the amenities he'd once considered essential. The first night, lying on a mattress he'd bought from a discount store, he'd called his assistant, former assistant, since the company was in receivership, and asked her to find him something better. Something befitting your status? She'd asked, ever professional despite not having been paid in weeks. My status is father of twins who don't know me. Find me something befitting that. She'd paused. Keep the apartment, Mr. Meridian. It's perfect. The therapy was harder than any negotiation he'd ever conducted. Dr. Brennan didn't care about his money, his former power, or his ability to charm. She cared about the boy who'd watched his father cycle through women and children like they were seasonal employees. Tell me about the first time you remember your father disappointing you, she said during their 3rd session. I was 7. He promised to come to my school play. I was tree number 3 in an environmental disaster of a production. He didn't show. How did that make you feel? Like tree number 3. Unimportant. Interchangeable. Replaceable. Is that how you made Zelda feel? Yes. Is that how you want your sons to feel? No. Then what are you going to do differently? Show up. Even for tree number 3. Especially for tree number 3. The parenting books were their own education. He'd read more challenging material, hostile takeover strategies, international tax law, the entire works of Ayn Rand in his unfortunate 20s. But nothing had prepared him for chapters on sleep regression, attachment theory, and the importance of tummy time. He took notes like he was preparing for a board presentation, made spreadsheets of developmental milestones, created a color-coded system for tracking feeding schedules he'd never actually experienced. His laptop, once used for multi-million-dollar deals, now had bookmarks for best toys for 3-month-olds and how to change a diaper. The hardest requirement was proving he'd turned down meetings for the twins. Not because opportunities weren't arising. Even in disgrace, people wanted to work with him. But because turning them down meant admitting what his priorities were. Cassius, Richard Townsend called week 3. I have a deal that could restore everything. Dubai investors, clean money, complete restart. Tuesday, 3 p.m. I can't Tuesday. Wednesday then. I can't Wednesday either. This is a limited time offer. Then I'll have to limit myself to refusing. For what possible reason? I have children. Twins. I'm learning to be their father. The silence on the other end was deafening. Then Richard laughed, bitter and dismissive. The Cassius Meridian I knew would never choose babies over billions. The Cassius Meridian you knew doesn't exist anymore. Then who are you? I'm finding out. He sent proof of the refused meeting to Zelda through Miranda. A screenshot of the offer, his refusal, and a simple note. Week 3. 1 meeting down. A lifetime to go. She didn't respond, but she didn't need to. This wasn't about earning forgiveness. It was about earning the right to try. Week 4, day 6, he sat in Dr. Brennan's office with a folder of certificates. Therapy attendance, perfect. Parenting class completion from the YMCA, where he'd been the only man in a room full of teenage mothers. 3 books read and annotated. 5 meetings refused, each one potentially worth millions. You're approaching this like a business acquisition, Dr. Brennan observed. It's the only way I know how to approach things. Your sons aren't a company to be acquired. No. But access to them is a goal to be achieved. What happens after you achieve it? Then the real work begins. And what is the real work? Learning to love them more than I fear becoming my father. Do you think you can? I have to. The call came that evening. Zelda's voice, careful and measured. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Miranda's office. You can meet them. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Meeting them is the easy part. Everything after is what matters. He didn't sleep that night. Sat in his discount apartment reading and rereading his notes on 3-month-old development. They could hold their heads up. They were starting to grab things. They smiled at faces they recognized, which meant they wouldn't smile at him. The next morning, he did something he hadn't done since he was 12. He threw up from nerves. Then he showered, shaved, and put on jeans and a button-down instead of a suit because the parenting books said babies responded better to approachable clothing. He arrived at Miranda's office an hour early and sat in his car like a teenager afraid to knock on his prom date's door. At 1:45, he made himself walk in. Zelda was already there, a baby in each arm, looking tired but fierce. The twins were awake, alert, wearing matching onesies that said, "I'm the good one," with arrows pointing at each other. Lysander, she said, lifting the baby on her left slightly. Phoenix, lifting the right. Boys, this is... She paused, looking at him. Cassius, he said, not presuming to use a title he hadn't earned. This is Cassius, she continued. He's going to visit today. Phoenix made a sound that could have been acknowledgement or gas. Lysander grabbed his own foot, apparently finding it more interesting than the stranger in front of him. Do you want to hold one? Zelda asked. I don't know how. I'll show you. She stood, moved to the couch, patted the spot beside her. He sat like the cushions might explode. She transferred Lysander into his arms, adjusting his hold, making sure the baby's head was supported. Like that, she said. Don't overthink it. But overthinking was all he knew how to do. This tiny person, maybe 10 pounds, felt heavier than any responsibility he'd ever carried. Lysander looked up at him with eyes that were exactly his own, whiskey-colored and suspicious. He looks skeptical, Cassius said. He's 3 months old. He looks gassy. But then Lysander did something miraculous. He grabbed Cassius's finger. tiny fingers wrapping around one of his, holding on with surprising strength. "That's a reflex," Zelda said. Palmer grasped. "All babies do it." "Still," Cassius whispered, afraid to move, afraid to breathe wrong. "He's holding on." Phoenix started fussing in Zelda's arms. She bounced him gently, but the fussing escalated to crying. "He's hungry," she said. "They eat every 3 hours. Sometimes more." She pulled out a bottle, and Cassius watched her feed Phoenix with practiced ease. Lysander was still holding his finger, now trying to bring it to his mouth. "Everything goes in their mouths at this age," Zelda explained. "It's how they explore the world." "Should I stop him?" "Your hands clean. I washed them 3 times in the bathroom." "Then let him explore." So Cassius sat there, letting his son gum his finger, feeling the absence of teeth and the presence of something he couldn't name. Love was too simple a word. Terror was too limited. This was something oceanic, vast, and threatening to drown him. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted. "Neither did I." "You learn." "What if I'm bad at it?" "You will be. Everyone is at first. The important thing is to keep trying." Phoenix finished his bottle and Zelda switched babies with him, showing him how to hold the bottle at the right angle, how to watch for air bubbles, how to pause for burping. "Pat, don't pound," she instructed as he attempted to burp Phoenix. "They're not ketchup bottles." A tiny burp emerged, followed by spit up that covered his shirt. "I should have warned you about that," Zelda said, not sounding sorry at all. "It's fine. Your shirt costs more than my weekly grocery budget." "Not anymore. This is from Target." She looked at him then, really looked at him. "You're trying." "I'm doing more than trying. We'll see." The visit lasted 2 hours. 2 hours of holding, feeding, changing one diaper that made him question the laws of physics. By the end, both babies were asleep, and he was exhausted in a way that no all-night negotiation had ever made him. "Same time next week?" Zelda asked. "Please." "And Cassius?" "Yes. Keep going to therapy." The weeks that followed developed a rhythm. Therapy Mondays and Thursdays. Visits with the twins Tuesdays and Saturdays. Parenting classes Wednesday nights. Reading and preparing the rest of the time. The twins began to recognize him by week 3 of visits. Phoenix smiled first, a gummy grin that made Cassius's chest tight. Lysander took longer, more cautious like his mother, but when he finally smiled, Cassius actually cried. "You're getting soft," Zelda observed. "I'm getting better." Maybe. She was still living in the boarding house, still working at the coffee shop. He'd offered money a dozen times, been refused a dozen times. "I don't want your money," she said. "I want your consistency. My child support would be consistent. Your presence needs to be consistent first. Money later." But he could see the strain, the exhaustion from working full-time with infant twins, the worry in her eyes when one of them coughed, the way she counted bills twice before buying formula. So he did something sneaky. He had Jerome, her coffee shop manager, hire 2 more employees so Zelda's hours could be reduced without her losing income. He had the boarding house suddenly discover a clerical error that meant her rent had been overpaid for months, resulting in a credit. He had formula appear on her doorstep with a note saying she'd won a contest she hadn't entered. "I know it's you," she said during a visit. "I don't know what you mean. The formula fairy? The rent adjustment? Jerome suddenly deciding I need more time with the babies. Coincidences. There are no coincidences in your world. There are in this world. This new world where I'm trying to help without controlling. It's still manipulation. It's creative support. Cassius, please, let me help. Not with strings, not with conditions. Just help." She studied him, this man who'd built empires on hostile takeovers trying to execute a friendly one. "Fine, but I'm keeping track. Everything you do, I'm writing down, and someday when I can, I'm paying it back." "No. Yes. We'll see." Month 2 of visits brought new challenges. The twins were more active, more aware, more demanding. They wanted to be held constantly, but also wanted to explore. They'd cry if put down, but also cry if held too long. "Welcome to parenting," Zelda said as he tried to soothe both twins simultaneously. "Where everything you do is wrong, but you have to do it anyway. This is harder than running a company. Companies don't scream at 3 a.m. You haven't met my board of directors." "Former board. Right." The company was being dissolved, picked apart by creditors and competitors like vultures on a carcass. He should have cared more. 6 months ago, it would have killed him. But now, Watching Phoenix discover his own hands while Lysander tried to eat his own foot, corporate death seemed insignificant. Does it bother you? Dr. Brennan asked during therapy. Losing everything you built. I lost everything I built the day I hit her. The company was just paperwork catching up to reality. That's very evolved. That's exhaustion. I don't have energy to mourn an empire when I'm learning to fold onesies. How's that going? The onesies or the mourning? Both. I can now fold a onesie in under 30 seconds. The mourning might take longer. Month 3 brought a breakthrough and a crisis. The breakthrough, Lysander laughed. A real laugh, not just gas or reflexes, but actual joy at Cassius making ridiculous faces. The crisis, Phoenix got sick. It started as a cough on a Tuesday. By Wednesday, he had a fever. Thursday, Zelda called Cassius at 2 a.m. He won't stop crying. His fever is 103. I'm taking him to the ER. Which hospital? Riverside. I'll meet you there. You don't have to. Which part of, I'm their father, are we still negotiating? He beat them to the hospital, was already arguing with admissions about expediting when Zelda arrived with both twins, Phoenix burning hot and Lysander picking up on the stress, both crying. Give me Lysander, he said, taking the healthier twin without asking. You focus on Phoenix. The next 6 hours were hell. Tests and waiting and more tests. Phoenix, tiny and fevered, getting in 4 that looked enormous in his small arm. Lysander, confused and exhausted, crying on and off in Cassius's arms. RSV, the doctor finally said. Respiratory syncytial virus. Common in infants, but needs monitoring. Is he going to be okay? Zelda asked. He should be. We'll keep him overnight, maybe 2 nights. Make sure his oxygen stays up. They were admitted to the pediatric ward. A tiny room with 1 bed and 1 chair. Zelda took the chair next to Phoenix's crib. Cassius stood holding Lysander, swaying because stopping meant crying. You can go, Zelda said at hour 8. Take Lysander home. Where's home? Your boarding house where I'm not allowed. My apartment where there's no crib? Here is home right now. Cassius. I'm not leaving. Either of them. Or you. She looked at him. This man who'd once scheduled bathroom breaks, now willing to stand all night, holding a baby. There's a couch in the family lounge, she said finally. You could take shifts with Lysander there. You trust me alone with him? I trust you not to run. That's enough for now. So began their first real co-parenting. 2 days and nights in the hospital, trading babies and duties. Cassius learned to change diapers in hospital cribs. Zelda learned to let him help without hovering. They ate terrible cafeteria food and drank worse coffee and watched Phoenix slowly improve. This is what it's going to be, Zelda said at 3 a.m. on night 2, both of them exhausted beyond measure. Sick kids, sleepless nights, worry that never goes away. I know. Do you? Because you can still walk away. No one would blame you. You would. No, I'd understand. This isn't what you signed up for. I didn't sign up for anything. That was the problem. But I'm signing up now. For this. For them. For whatever comes. Phoenix was discharged on day 3 with medicine and monitoring instructions. They went back to the boarding house because it was closer, and Cassius got his first look at where his sons had been living. 1 room. 2 cribs crammed against 1 wall. A hot plate and mini fridge. A bathroom down the hall shared with 3 other tenants. It was clean, safe, but barely. This is unacceptable, he said. This is reality. Let me help. Really help. Get you a better place. With what money? Your assets are frozen. I still have some liquidity. Enough for a deposit on a real apartment. I don't want. Stop. Stop punishing yourself and them to punish me. Please. She looked at him holding Lysander, then at Phoenix sleeping off his ordeal, and something in her shifted. Fine. But I pay rent. You can help with the deposit, but I pay rent. Deal. They found a 2-bedroom in a better building. Nothing fancy, but clean and safe with its own bathroom and actual kitchen. The landlord was skeptical of a single mother with twins until Cassius co-signed the lease. You the father? The landlord asked. I'm learning to be. Moving day was chaos. The twins were 5 months old, grabbing everything, putting everything in their mouths. Zelda had accumulated more than expected in Columbus. Baby gear multiplies apparently. Cassius rented a truck, loaded boxes while wearing the twins and carriers he'd bought after extensive research. You look ridiculous, Zelda said, seeing him with a baby strapped to his chest and another on his back. I look like a father. Same thing sometimes. They set up the nursery together. 2 cribs, a changing table, a rocking chair. Cassius insisted on buying despite Zelda's protests. Every nursery needs a rocking chair, he said. Says who? The internet. And Dr. Spock. And that woman at the parenting class who made me cry talking about attachment theory. She made you cry? Shut up and help me assemble this crib. They worked until midnight, the twins finally asleep in their new room. Zelda and Cassius stood in the doorway, watching them breathe, tiny chests rising and falling in sync. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For showing up. For staying. For being better than I expected. That's a low bar. You're clearing it though. Barely. Still counts. You should have left then. It was late. The babies were settled. But something kept him there, standing beside her, watching their son sleep. I loved you, he said suddenly. Before. I loved you. I was just too broken to do it right. I know. Do you think? He stopped. What? Do you think there's a version of us that works? Not now, not soon, but someday. I think there's a version of us that's parents together. That's what matters now. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. Month 4 brought new rhythms. Cassius had visiting rights 3 days a week, plus weekends. He'd baby-proofed his apartment, turned the second bedroom into a nursery that was nicer than Zelda's despite her having primary custody. The twins were crawling, or attempting to. Phoenix was faster, army crawling toward anything dangerous. Lysander was more methodical, rocking on all fours like he was calculating trajectories. He's going to be an engineer, Cassius said, watching Lysander study a toy before grabbing it. He's 5 months old. A 5-month-old engineer. And Phoenix. They looked at Phoenix, who was trying to eat the coffee table. Senator, they said simultaneously, then laughed because when was the last time they'd laughed together? Co-parenting was complicated. They had a custody arrangement, but ignored it half the time based on need. Cassius would show up when Phoenix had another cold. Zelda would drop both twins off when she had a double shift. They were learning to be partners without being together, which was harder than either expected. You need to date, Miranda said during one of their legal check-ins. Excuse me, Zelda asked. Both of you. You need to date other people. Establish that you're co-parents, not a couple. We're not a couple, Cassius said quickly. Could have fooled me. You had dinner together 3 times last week. With the twins. Still dinner. It's easier than coordinating handoffs. It's dating without calling it dating. It's co-parenting, Zelda insisted. Then date other people and prove it. So Zelda went on a date with a pediatric nurse named Marcus who was nice and stable and understood kids. Cassius waited at her apartment to babysit, trying not to think about another man making her laugh. How was it? He asked when she got home at 10 p.m. Fine. Fine. He was nice. Nice. Very nice. Seeing him again? Maybe. Good. That's good. She looked at him, holding Phoenix who'd refused to sleep. Your turn. Miranda's right. We need boundaries. So Cassius went on a date with a lawyer named Patricia who was brilliant and ambitious and understood corporate complexity. Zelda babysat at his apartment, trying not to think about another woman appreciating his evolution. How was it? She asked when he got home at 9:30. Educational. Educational. She knew a lot about maritime law. Romantic. Very. Seeing her again? Probably not. Why? She asked if the twins were a deal breaker. What did you say? I said they were the only deal that mattered. The dating experiment ended after those attempts. Not officially, but neither tried again. They fell back into their rhythm of shared dinners and custody fluid as water. Month 5 brought solid food and new challenges. The twins had opinions now. Phoenix liked everything orange. Lysander was suspicious of anything new. Mealtime became a battlefield of flying carrots and rejected peas. This is terrorism, Cassius said, sweet potato in his hair. This is parenting. Same thing. Now you're learning. They were at his apartment, attempting dinner. The twins had matching high chairs, matching bibs, matching expressions of disgust at green beans. When did we become these people? Zelda asked, wiping peas off the wall. What people? Suburban parents covered in baby food discussing poop consistency. Thursday. Definitely Thursday. I used to curate exhibitions at the Met. I used to destroy companies before breakfast. Now we're defeated by pureed vegetables. Evolution or devolution? Jury's out. But they were laughing. even as Phoenix sneezed carrots across the table and Lysander threw his spoon for the 5th time. They were laughing and together and almost happy. "I miss you," Cassius said suddenly. "I'm right here. You know what I mean." "Cassius, I know we can't. I know I ruined it. I know we're just co-parents. But I miss you. Miss us. The us that hit me while pregnant. No, the us before that. The us that could have been. That us doesn't exist. Couldn't it? Not while I still flinch when you move too fast." That stopped him cold. "You flinch. Sometimes. Not always. But sometimes you'll gesture while talking, and I'll react before I remember you're different now. I'm so sorry. I know. What can I do? Keep being different. Keep showing up. Keep proving that one moment doesn't define all moments. For how long? Until I stop flinching. Or forever. Whichever comes first." Month 6 arrived with crawling turning to pulling up. The twins were mobile and fearless. Phoenix had bruises from falling. Lysander had learned to climb out of his crib. "We need to lower the mattresses," Zelda said after finding Lysander halfway to freedom. "We need to bubble wrap everything. We need to accept they're going to get hurt." "I don't accept that." "You have to. They're going to fall and fail and get hurt, and we can't prevent it all. Watch me." But he couldn't. Phoenix pulled a coffee table down on himself, getting his first real cut. Lysander rolled off the changing table when Cassius looked away for a second. Each injury felt like failure, proof he wasn't meant for this. "Every parent has these moments," Dr. Brennan assured him. "Mistakes that feel catastrophic but are actually normal. I'm supposed to protect them. You're supposed to love them through the hurts you can't prevent. That's harder. That's parenting." The end of month 6 brought their custody hearing. Official arrangements needed to be made, the informal system codified. They sat in a courthouse waiting room, twins and carriers, looking like any other divorced couple except they'd never been married. "Whatever happens in there," Zelda said, "we keep doing what works for them." Agreed. Even if the judge is an idiot. Especially then. The judge wasn't an idiot. She was a grandmother who'd seen enough broken families to recognize one trying to heal. "You're requesting joint custody?" she asked, reviewing their petition. "Yes," they answered together. "Despite the documented assault, he's changed," Zelda said. "He's in therapy, he's present, he's a good father. You're defending the man who hit you?" "I'm advocating for my children's right to their father." "Mr. Meridian, do you have anything to add?" "Just that I know I don't deserve this. Don't deserve them, or her trust, or this chance. But I'm taking it anyway because those boys deserve a father who shows up." "And you'll show up?" "Every day for the rest of my life." The judge granted joint custody with a warning that any violence would result in immediate revocation. They left the courthouse as official co-parents, legal and binding. "Dinner?" Cassius asked. "To celebrate?" "It's Tuesday. We always have dinner on Tuesday. Right? Regular dinner. Not a date dinner. Not a date." But it felt like a date when he held the door. Felt like a date when they shared dessert while the twins slept in their carriers. Felt like a date when he walked them home and lingered in the doorway. "Cassius." "Yeah." I stopped flinching. "When?" "I don't know. Gradually, then suddenly. But I stopped." "What does that mean?" "I don't know yet." Month 7 brought first words. Not mama or dada, but no from Phoenix and oh from Lysander. Appropriate first words, Zelda said. Defiance and disaster. They're your children. They're our children. Ours. The word hung between them, loaded with possibility. Month 8 was first steps. Phoenix, fearless and uncoordinated, walking into walls. Lysander, careful and calculated, taking 3 steps, then sitting down to reconsider. He's going to be a CEO, Cassius said. God help us. A better one than me. Low bar. Getting higher, though. They were at the park, a ritual now. Saturday mornings with coffee and twins who wanted to explore everything. Other parents assumed they were married, and they'd stop correcting them. Mr. and Mrs. Meridian, one mom said. Are you coming to the playgroup Tuesday? We're not, Zelda started. We'll be there, Cassius finished. The playgroup was a disaster. 20 toddlers in a community center, chaos incarnate. Phoenix bit another child. Lysander hoarded all the blocks. They left early, embarrassed and exhausted. We're raising monsters, Zelda said. We're raising humans. Same thing sometimes. Want to get drunk? Can't. Breastfeeding. Right? Want to watch me get drunk? Desperately. They went to his apartment. put the twins down for naps. Open wine they shouldn't be drinking at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. When did we become day drinkers? She asked. When our children became biters and hoarders. Fair. 3 glasses in, inhibitions lowered, she kissed him. Or he kissed her. Later, they couldn't agree who started it. But suddenly they were kissing like teenagers, like they hadn't had a relationship that ended in violence, like they weren't just co-parents maintaining boundaries. We shouldn't, she said against his mouth. Definitely not. But they kept kissing until Phoenix cried, reality intruding. I should go, she said. Stay. I can't. Why? Because I'm not ready to forgive you completely. When will you be? I don't know. I'll wait. Don't wait. Be their father. That's enough. But it wasn't enough, and they both knew it. Month 9 was their first birthday party planning. The twins would be 1 in 3 months, and Zelda wanted perfection. They won't remember it, Cassius pointed out. But we will. So will our bank accounts. Since when do you care about cost? Since I have no income and limited savings. Right? Sorry. Don't apologize for me facing consequences. They planned something simple. Family style, except neither had family to invite. Their guest list was Jerome from the coffee shop, Dottie from the boarding house, Miranda the lawyer, Dr. Brennan, who'd become oddly essential, and a few parents from playgroup. This is sadder than my funeral will be, Cassius said, looking at the list. Your funeral won't have cake. How do you know? Because I'll be planning it, and I hold grudges. Still. Less. But some. Month 10 brought walking for real. Both twins, suddenly mobile and coordinated. The apartment had to be re-baby-proofed for their new reach. We need a house, Cassius said after Phoenix figured out doorknobs. We need separate houses. We're co-parents, not cohabitating. Right? Of course. But they spent every evening together anyway. Dinner, bath time, bedtime stories neither twin understood but seemed to love. They were playing house without admitting it. This is confusing, Miranda said during another check-in. You're together but not together. We're co-parents, Zelda insisted. Who kiss sometimes? Once. We kissed once. This month. Miranda. I'm just saying. Define the relationship before the boys are old enough to be confused by it. But how do you define something that has no definition? They weren't together but weren't apart. Weren't in love but weren't not in love. They were in limbo, comfortable and uncomfortable simultaneously. Month 11 was first words that mattered. Phoenix said mama, while Zelda was at work, Cassius filming it to show her. Lysander said dada, while Cassius was in Chicago for a job interview, Zelda filming it for him. They're talking about us when we're gone, she said over FaceTime that night. That's either beautiful or heartbreaking. Both. Everything with kids is both. How was the interview? Good. They want me to start next month. In Chicago? Yeah. That's far. 3-hour flight. I'd come every weekend. Every weekend? Or we could all move to Chicago. I have a job here. I know. The boys have doctors here, routines. I know. You can't just uproot us for your career. I'm not. I'm asking. There's a difference. The answer is no. Then I won't take it. You have to take it. You need income. I need my sons more. Cassius. No. I've lost enough. I won't lose them to distance and weekends. I'll find something here. He did, eventually. A consulting firm that wanted his expertise without his baggage. Half the money he used to make, which was still more than most people saw. Enough for child support that Zelda finally accepted because the twins needed things and pride didn't buy diapers. Their first birthday came faster than expected. One day they were newborns. The next they were 1-year-olds walking into furniture and babbling constantly. The party was perfect chaos. Too much cake, too many presents, 2 overtired babies who cried through happy birthday and fell asleep in their high chairs covered in frosting. We survived a year, Zelda said, surveying the destruction. Barely. Still counts. Everything counts with you. That's how I keep score. They were alone in her apartment, guests gone, twins asleep. The kind of quiet that only comes after chaos. I love you, Cassius said. Still. Again. Always. I know. I love them more than I thought possible. I know that too. Is it enough? Is what enough? Love. Is love enough to overcome what I did? I don't know. Maybe. Sometimes love isn't enough. But sometimes it is. Sometimes. Which time is this? She looked at him. This man who'd hit her and hurt her and then healed himself to heal them, who'd given up everything to be present, who loved their sons with a ferocity that surprised everyone, including himself. Ask me again in another year. That's a long time. We have time. Do we? If you keep showing up, we have all the time in the world. Year 2 was easier and harder. Easier because they knew what they were doing. Harder because the twins had opinions about everything. Phoenix was fearless to the point of danger. Lysander was cautious to the point of frustration. They were identical in appearance, opposite in temperament. They're going to need therapy, Zelda said after Phoenix jumped off the couch for the 10th time. Everyone needs therapy. Thanks to you. They can afford it. Silver lining to generational trauma. They were still in their weird limbo. Together but not. Raising children in tandem while maintaining separate lives that increasingly overlapped. Just get back together, Jerome said during one of Zelda's shifts. Everyone knows you want to. It's complicated. It's not. He loves you. You love him. The boys need stability. They have stability. They have 2 homes and parents who kiss when they think no one's looking. Once. We kissed once. This week. It was true. The kissing had become more frequent. Goodbye kisses that lingered. Hello kisses that promised. Middle of the night kisses when they were both exhausted from teething twins. We're confusing them, Zelda said one night after particularly lingering goodbye. They're one. Everything confuses them. We're confusing ourselves. I'm not confused. I want you back. You can't have me back. You never had me to begin with. Then I want you forward. I want you in whatever direction leads to together, even if that direction takes years. Especially then. Their second birthday party was bigger. The twins had friends now, other toddlers they played with or fought with, depending on the day. Cassius had reconnected with some business contacts who brought their children. Zelda had made mom friends who understood exhaustion as a lifestyle. Look at us, Cassius said, watching their sons destroy a bounce house. We're almost normal. We're never going to be normal. Normal is overrated, says the former billionaire. Former. Current father. That's the only title that matters. Phoenix had a meltdown when his cake was chocolate instead of vanilla. Lysander cried because Phoenix was crying. The party dissolved into chaos, but the kind everyone with toddlers expected. 2 down, Cassius said that night, twins finally asleep. 16 to go. Don't wish it away. I'm not. I'm just saying we're surviving. We're doing more than surviving. Are we? She kissed him then. Really kissed him. Not a goodbye kiss or exhausted kiss, but an intentional, meaningful kiss. We're trying, she said. That's something. Is trying enough? Today? Yes. Year 3 brought preschool applications and new anxieties. The good schools had waiting lists. The waiting lists had requirements. The requirements felt designed to exclude people like them. Complicated, messy, real. We could lie, Cassius suggested, looking at an application asking about family structure. And say what? We're married. Committed partners. We're not partners. Aren't we? I don't know what we are. Then maybe we should figure it out before these applications are due. But they didn't. Wrote co-parents on every form and let the schools interpret. Some did, accepting the twins. Others didn't, rejecting them for reasons unspoken but understood. They're 3, Zelda said after another rejection. How are they already being judged? Welcome to having a complicated family. We're not complicated. We're the definition of complicated. We're also happy. Mostly. Doesn't that count? Not on applications. They got into a good school eventually. Not the best, but good. The twins would start in fall, giving them 6 months to figure out logistics. We need to be in the same school district, Cassius pointed out. We are. Barely. If either of us moves. Neither of us is moving. But if we did, what are you suggesting? Nothing. Just thinking ahead. To what? To maybe moving in together. No. Not now. But eventually. Cassius. The boys need stability. One home would be more stable than 2. One home with parents who aren't together would be confusing. Then maybe we should be together. Maybe isn't enough. What is enough? Certainty. Complete. Absolute certainty that you won't hurt me again. You can't have that. Nobody can guarantee they won't hurt someone. Then I guess we stay complicated. The twins started noticing the complication. Started asking why Daddy lived somewhere else. Why other kids' parents slept in the same house. Why everything required negotiation and scheduling. Because that's our family, Zelda explained. Every family is different. I don't want different, Phoenix said. I want normal. Normal is boring, Cassius told him. I like boring, Lysander added. You would, Phoenix said, which started a fight that ended with timeout and tears. We're damaging them, Zelda said that night. We're doing our best. What if our best isn't good enough? Then we do better. How? By figuring out what we are to each other. We're co-parents. We're more than that, and you know it. Knowing it and admitting it are different things. Then admit it. You first. Fine. I love you. I want to be with you. I want to wake up in the same house and raise our boys together and stop pretending we're not a family when we obviously are. We're not. We eat dinner together every night. We take them to school together. We do bedtime together. We're together in everything but name and address. And trust. We're not together in trust. Then what do I have to do to earn it? I don't know. That's not fair. Neither was hitting me while pregnant. I know. God, I know. And I'll apologize for that forever. But at some point, either you forgive me or you don't. Either we move forward or we stay stuck. But we can't keep doing this in-between thing. Watch us. But he was right. The in-between was getting harder. The boys were getting older, asking harder questions. Their friends' parents assumed they were together. Their teachers sent home one set of papers. Everyone treated them like a couple except them. Mommy, Lysander asked one night, why don't you love Daddy? I do love Daddy. Then why don't you live together? Because love is complicated. I don't like complicated. Neither do I, baby. Neither do I. Their third birthday came with less fanfare. The boys requested specific things. Phoenix wanted a dinosaur party. Lysander wanted space themes. They compromised on dinosaurs in space, which was exactly as chaotic as it sounded. 3 years, Cassius said, watching the boys play. We've been doing this for 3 years. Successfully. Barely. Still counts. Does it? Because I feel like we're running in place. We're raising good kids. We're raising confused kids. All kids are confused. Not about whether their parents are together. Cassius. I know you need time. But they're running out of time to have parents who are actually together. They have parents who love them. That's not the same. It's enough. For now. That night, after the party, after the boys were asleep, they sat on her couch drinking wine they shouldn't mix with exhaustion. I forgive you, she said suddenly. What? I forgive you. For hitting me. For trying to buy me off. For being scared and broken and human. I forgive you, Zelda. But forgiving isn't forgetting. And I can't forget the way that slap felt. The way it sounded. The way everyone froze. I can't forget either. Then where does that leave us? I don't know. Me neither. They kissed anyway. Kissed like forgiveness was enough. Like love could overcome history. Like 3 years of co-parenting had erased one moment of violence. It hadn't. But it had created something else. A foundation that might hold weight. A partnership that might become more. A family that was already real even if they wouldn't admit it. Move in with me, he said against her mouth. No. Eventually. Maybe. That's progress. That's all you get tonight. I'll take it. The boys started preschool in fall. 2 little backpacks, 2 lunchboxes, 2 boys who looked exactly alike but couldn't be more different. Phoenix ran into the classroom without looking back. Lysander clung to Zelda's leg until Cassius gently pried him off. They'll be fine, the teacher assured them. Will we? Zelda asked. That remains to be seen. They stood in the parking lot, watching through the window as their boys navigated a new world without them. We did it, Cassius said. We got them to school age alive and relatively undamaged. Relatively is doing a lot of work in that sentence. Still counts. Everything counts with you now. I learned from the best. They went for coffee, just the 2 of them, no boys demanding attention. It felt strange, like a date, but not. What do we do now? Zelda asked. With our morning? With our lives? I don't know. What do you want? I want to stop being scared. Of what? Of you. Of us. Of trying again and failing. We won't fail. You can't promise that. I can promise to try. Trying isn't enough anymore. The boys need more than trying. Then what do they need? Certainty. Stability. Parents who are all in or all out. Then I'm all in. Just like that. It's been 3 years, Zelda. I've been all in since Phoenix got sick. Since Lysander took his first steps. Since they said Dada and Mama and meant us. I'm all in. The question is whether you are. She looked at him. This man who'd rebuilt himself from violent CEO to present father. who'd given up everything to gain something better, who loved their boys with a fierceness that still surprised her. "Ask me at Christmas," she said. "That's 4 months away. Then you have 4 months to prove all it means forever. Forever is a long time. That's what parenting is. That's what love is. Forever or nothing. Then forever." 4 months passed in a blur of school pickups, homework they were too young for, play dates that were really parent dates. Cassius was everywhere, school volunteer, soccer coach for tiny humans who didn't understand rules, bedtime story reader extraordinaire. "You're trying too hard," Zelda told him in November. "I'm trying exactly hard enough. The other parents think you're gunning for Father of the Year. I'm gunning for Father of their years. All of them. That's a long commitment. That's the point." Christmas Eve, the boys asleep after leaving cookies for Santa that Cassius would eat and milk Zelda would drink. They sat by the tree, presents wrapped and waiting. "It's been 4 months," he said. "I know. You said to ask at Christmas. It's still Christmas Eve." "Zelda." "Yes. Yes. Yes, I'm all in. Yes, move in. Yes, let's be a real family instead of whatever we've been pretending we're not." Just like that. It's been 3.5 years. Nothing is just like that. He kissed her then, and it felt different. Not like goodbye, or maybe you're complicated. Like hello? Like finally. Like forever. "The boys will be thrilled," he said. "The boys will take credit. They should. They've been parent trapping us for years. Successfully, apparently. They moved in together in January. Not his place or hers, but a house they rented together. 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a yard for the boys to destroy. Normal and boring and perfect. "This is anticlimactic," Zelda said, unpacking boxes. "We've been basically living together for years. Except now it's official. Official is good. Official is better than good." The boys adjusted instantly. Of course they did. This was what they'd wanted all along. 1 house, 2 parents. No more scheduling who went where when. "See," Phoenix said. "I told you they loved each other." "You owe me $5, Lysander replied. "You've been betting on us?" Cassius asked. "Everyone was betting on you," Phoenix said. "Even Jerome." "Especially Jerome," Lysander added. Their 4th birthday was a real party. Extended family of choice, school friends, a bounce house that survived Phoenix, a cake Lysander actually ate. Normal family chaos. "For years," Zelda said that night. "Boys asleep, house quiet. Best 4 years of my life. You lost everything in these 4 years. I gained everything that mattered. That's very evolved. That's very therapy. Dr. Brennan would be proud. Dr. Brennan takes partial credit for our success. Only partial. The rest goes to 2 boys who wouldn't let us fail. We could have failed, but we didn't. We didn't. They got married the next year. Nothing fancy, just family court with the boys as ring bearers. Phoenix dropped the rings twice. Lysander cried because his shoes were uncomfortable. Perfect chaos. "You may kiss the bride," the judge said. "Gross." Both boys yelled, covering their eyes. But they were smiling. Everyone was smiling. Even Zelda, who'd once run from this man, now choosing to run toward him. "I love you," Cassius said at dinner, their first as an official family. "We know," the boys said in unison, then laughed because they thought they were hilarious. "I love you too," Zelda said. "All of you. Forever." "Forever is a long time," Phoenix said. "That's the point," Lysander added. And it was. The point was forever. The point was choosing each other again and again. The point was that sometimes the worst moment of your life leads to the best parts. The point was that people can change, forgiveness is possible, and love multiplies when you let it. The slap had happened. Would always have happened. But it didn't define them anymore. What defined them was everything after, the choice to be better, to show up, to build something from broken pieces. "Tell us the story," Phoenix asked at bedtime, their favorite request. "Which story?" Zelda asked, though she knew. "The one where Daddy was mean, and then got nice, and then we were born, and then everyone lived happily ever after." "That's not how it goes," Lysander corrected. "First they were in love, then Daddy was mean, then we were born, then Daddy learned to be nice, then they fell in love again." "Same thing," Phoenix argued. "It's not the same at all," Lysander insisted. "Boys," Cassius interrupted. "However it goes, how does it end?" "Happily ever after," they said together. "No," Zelda corrected. "It ends with happily ever now. Because after hasn't happened yet, but now is pretty perfect. Happily ever now, Phoenix repeated, yawning. I like that. Lysander agreed, already half asleep. Me too, Cassius whispered. Happily ever now. And they were. Not perfectly, not always easily, but happily. A family built on second chances and stubborn love. A father who'd learned to stay. A mother who'd learned to forgive. Two boys who taught them both that love wasn't just a feeling but a choice you made every day. The slap had been the ending of one story, but it had also been the beginning of a better one. One where villains could become heroes, where broken things could be rebuilt stronger, where love could overcome fear if you let it. 5 years after that slap, Cassius spoke at a charity event for domestic violence survivors. Zelda sat in the front row, the boys beside her, wearing suits that matched their fathers. I was the man you're all thinking about, he said to the crowd. The one who hurt someone he claimed to love. The one who thought violence was an answer to fear. I was that man, and in many ways, I'll always be that man. But I'm also proof that with help, with consequences, with the grace of someone who owed me nothing, people can change. Not excuse their actions, not erase them, but face them and become better. My wife saved me from being the monster I was becoming. My sons gave me a reason to be better. And every day, I choose to earn the second chance I was given. Not because I deserve it, but because they deserve a father and husband who shows up whole. The crowd was silent. Then someone clapped. Then everyone. Not for him, but for the idea that change was possible. That redemption wasn't easy, but it was achievable. Was that okay? He asked Zelda after. It was honest. Is that enough? Today? Yes. And tomorrow? Tomorrow we'll see. But tomorrow was good too. And the day after. And the year after that. Not perfect, never perfect, but good and getting better. The boys grew. Phoenix became a leader, fearless and kind. Lysander became an artist, thoughtful and precise. They fought and made up, succeeded and failed, lived the normal, abnormal life of twins with parents who'd taken the long way to love. Do you ever regret it? Cassius asked on their 10th anniversary, standing in the kitchen of the house they'd bought, watching their boys play in the yard. Regret what? Taking me back. Giving me another chance. No. Really. I regret that you hit me. I regret that we lost time being afraid. But I don't regret choosing to forgive you. I don't regret our family. Even though we're complicated, every family is complicated. Ours is just honest about it. The boys seem okay. The boys are better than okay. They're kind and confident and secure. They know they're loved. They know love takes work. That's a good thing to know. Think they'll hate us when they're older? For being so messy. Probably. But they'll also understand that messy doesn't mean broken. That people can change. That love is a choice you make over and over. And if they don't understand, then we'll keep showing them until they do. And they did. Through teenage years and college applications. Through first heartbreaks and major achievements. Through all of it, they showed their boys that family wasn't about being perfect, but about choosing each other through imperfection. 20 years after the slap, at the twins' college graduation, Phoenix gave a speech as valedictorian. My parents have the worst how we met story ever, he began, getting laughs. Like seriously terrible. Google it if you want nightmares. But they also have the best how we stayed together story. Because staying together when you've hurt each other, when you've failed, when you have every reason to walk away, that takes more courage than any fairy tale. My parents taught me that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice. A daily, sometimes hourly choice to show up, to be better, to forgive and seek forgiveness, to build something beautiful from broken pieces. Lysander, the artist, had painted their family portrait for his senior thesis. Not a traditional portrait, but an abstract showing fragmented pieces coming together, forming something whole from shattered parts. The title, After the Break. It's about us, isn't it? Zelda asked, studying the painting. It's about everyone, Lysander said. Everyone breaks. The question is what you build after. What did we build? Cassius asked. This, Phoenix said, gesturing at all of them standing together. You built this. And they had. Against odds, against logic, against everyone who said they couldn't. They'd built a family from violence and forgiveness, from showing up when it was hard, from choosing love when hate would have been easier. The slap had happened. Would always have happened. But it was one moment in a lifetime of moments, and they'd chosen to make the other moments count more. Worth it? Cassius asked Zelda that night. The boys gone back to their adult lives, the house quiet. Every second, even the bad ones. Especially those. They made us who we are. Who are we? Parents. Partners. Proof that people can change. Is that enough? It's everything. And it was. Not the everything they'd planned, but the everything they'd earned. A love story that started with a slap and ended with a family. A cautionary tale that became a redemption song. A broken beginning that led to a whole ending. Or really, not an ending at all. Just a continuation of the choice to love, to stay, to build something beautiful from the ashes of what they'd burned. The slap had been heard around Wall Street, but the love that followed echoed everywhere else. In their boys' confidence, in other couples' hope, in the possibility that the worst moment doesn't have to be the defining one. They were Zelda and Cassius, parents of Phoenix and Lysander. A family built on second chances and stubborn love. Proof that happily ever after isn't a destination, but a choice you make every day. And they chose it. Over and over. Forever and always. Happily ever now.